Boom! As though the entire dark swamp was shaking violently, a terrifying roar sounded from the 72nd demon god pillar. An intense green and black light shone at the same time. This time, the forest boa king had miscalculated. From the beginning, it knew that the real threat to it was not Andamari, but the pillar that he had brought. However, it was also very clear that it would not be easy to find an opportunity to attack this pillar. It pretended to be angered by Andamari and spat out the inner core. It had finally found this seemingly rare opportunity, so how could it not give it its all? In its opinion, as long as it destroyed this demon god pillar, then Andamari could only die in its pursuit. However, it had miscalculated. It had gravely underestimated the strength of the demon god pillar. Amidst the violent roar, the forest boa king's body trembled violently as though it was a pendulum. Its inner core rebounded at a shocking speed, but the green light on it had clearly dimmed. Not only that, but the light on the forest boa king's body had also dimmed. Andamari laughed maniacally and pounced towards the forest boa king again. Together with the phantom that he had conjured, he launched a fatal attack. How could he let go of such a good opportunity? In the history of humans and demons, the demon gods had been killed countless times, but the 72 demon god pillars that guarded the demons had never been destroyed. Even artifacts had not damaged the demon's treasures, let alone the forest boa king's inner core. Due to its miscalculation, the forest boa king suffered a strong backlash from the violent collision of the inner core, and was in an absolutely weak state. Snake demon god Andamari seized this opportunity to launch a frenzied attack on it. In an instant, the forest boa king's flesh and blood splattered all over its body, and it seemed like it could not hold on any longer. In terms of strength, the forest boa king should have had the absolute advantage. After all, there was a difference in levels between a peak rank 8 and a rank 9. The forest boa king could completely control the elemental attributes in this area. However, the demon god pillars were too useful. Not only did they give snake demon god Andamari a powerful support of the dark element, but they also increased his external spiritual energy to more than 100,000 points. This greatly reduced the gap between them. The forest boa king's previous series of calculations had all succeeded, and this made it overly confident in itself. As a result, it made a fatal mistake, and its inner core suffered a backlash from the demon god pillars, causing it to be at an absolute disadvantage. However, the attack from the forest boa king's inner core was not completely useless. At the very least, the 4 Medusas hidden behind the demon god pillars fell to the swamp from the strong spiritual energy shock. All of them were bleeding from their mouths and noses, and they quickly twisted their bodies to avoid falling into the swamp. Although the Medusas were powerful, they were only rank 6 snake demons after all. The attack from the forest boa king's inner core was completely blocked by the demon god pillars, but the shock caused by the terrifying spiritual energy spread in a wide range, and the 4 Medusas were injured in an instant. A faint green light drilled in like a bolt of lightning at this instant, and then stopped in an instant. This movement and stillness was extremely strange, and the place where it stopped was in the middle of the 4 Medusas. Immediately after, the green light turned into a whirlwind, as if countless green halos exploded from within. Amidst the ear-piercing whistling sounds, the 4 Medusas immediately let out loud screams. They did not even dare to open their eyes at this moment, because the violent shock of the spiritual energy had caused them to fall into a state of dizziness. What if the petrification ray landed on their companions? After all, even the Medusas themselves were not immune to their own petrification ray. However, these Medusas were rank 6 powerhouses after all, and the snake hair on their heads immediately surged wildly, attempting to block the attack of the green light. However, as soon as the snake hair entered the range of the green light, it instantly turned into pieces. This was also the reason for their screams, that was a part of their bodies. Snake demon god Andamari suddenly heard the screams behind him, and subconsciously turned to look. This look caused him to instantly turn pale with fright. Due to the concealment of the demon god pillars, he did not clearly see what the green light looked like. Based on his usual thinking, he naturally thought that the green light belonged to the forest boa king. After all, the spiritual energy emitted by the forest boa king was the same color. At this moment, he was in the midst of a battle with the forest boa king, and the surrounding spiritual energy was controlled by the forest boa king, which greatly affected his judgment. The four Medusas finally could not help but open their eyes. Their snake hair had been cut off, and the sharp aura had already reached their bodies. Be it humans or demons, in such a situation they would definitely subconsciously try to save themselves, and they could also sense the direction of the enemy. However, when they turned their heads and opened their eyes, what they saw was each other's companions. The green figure that had displayed the dazzling skill was 5 meters above them, so how could it see their eyes? The four bodies instantly turned into stone, and the four Medusas who were experts in water died from drowning. The four Medusas actually collided with each other, and their petrified bodies immediately sank into the swamp. This almost made Andamari's nose crooked in anger, but it was too late when he reacted. The Anaconda King's huge body had completely sunk into the swamp, and all he could do was vent his anger on the swamp mud. He attacked the mud with all his might, and finally managed to injure the Anaconda King through the mud. The Anaconda King dove into the mud like a fish in water, and its aura disappeared in an instant. The two powerhouses schemed and plotted against each other, and it could be said that no one could completely suppress the other. Andamari was also very smart. Seeing that his opponent had disappeared, his thick tail immediately wrapped around the demon god pillar in front of him, pushing his body up and out of the swamp. As long as he relied on the demon god pillar, he could unleash his full strength, and the Anaconda King would be greatly weakened. In a situation where the enemy was unknown, he could still make a safe choice and not be affected by his own emotions. He was indeed one of the 72 demon god pillars. Chapter 153. The Anaconda King did not reveal its head to attack again. It was obviously waiting for an opportunity. The battle that had been so intense just now had suddenly calmed down. Powerful spiritual fluctuations circulated in the air. Both of them knew that the other party was watching them, but no one dared to move. At their level of strength, once they were fatally injured by their opponent, it would be too difficult for them to turn the tables. The Anaconda King's life was already threatened. If Andamari had not been tricked, it would probably have been suppressed to death. Andamari's brain was working at high speed. His senses were fully activated. He pointed his pair of snake spears at the ground, not daring to relax. However, he soon found an opportunity. The Anaconda King's huge body disappeared into the swamp. Then, the cave that it had previously blocked was naturally revealed. This cave was already very big from a human's point of view. But for the Anaconda King and the demon god Andamari, it was not very wide. It was about 3 meters in diameter. The entire cave was weaved by vines and extended all the way into the swamp. There seemed to be a faint light shining from the cave. There was no doubt that life was more precious than treasure. After being fatally threatened, the Anaconda King gave up guarding this cave. A cold smile appeared on Andamari's face. "You want to hide? All right, I don't believe that you'll really give up your cave." The treasure in this cave was one of Andromalius's goals. Whether it was killing the Anaconda King or finding out about the treasure, it was an excellent outcome. It could be said that this trip was not in vain. After locking onto his target, Andamari was not in a hurry to act. He attached himself to the demon god pillar and kept taking deep breath. Layers of black light began to seep out of the demon god pillar and was sucked into his stomach like a whale sucking in water. His aura suddenly continued to rise. The spiritual power that he had expended earlier was recovering at an alarming rate. Why else would the demon god next to the demon god pillar be the scariest? Andamari was ranked last, but with the support of the demon god pillar, he was actually able to suppress the Type 9 Anaconda King. His huge body began to curl up, and a pair of huge black wings slowly spread out on his back. The wings emitted a dark red glow, and one could clearly see the dark red blood vessels throbbing on them, opening and closing along with Andamari's breathing. Just as he was about to recover to his peak condition, Andamari finally moved. His curled-up body suddenly shot out and pounced towards the entrance of the cave like a dark red bolt of lightning. The distance between the demon god pillar and the cave was only 200 to 300 meters. With his strength and speed, coupled with the help of the wings on his back, it was almost instantaneous. Attacking what the enemy had to save, this was an overt plot. It was an overt plot that forced the Forest Boa King to submit, unless the Forest Boa King was willing to give up on the treasures in the cave. Clearly, the Anaconda King wasn't willing to give up. Just as Andamari was about to reach the entrance of the cave, a strong green light suddenly erupted from the swamp. The rich green light was mixed with a layer of greenish-black. The accumulated spiritual power had actually solidified into a solid form. For the thing in the cave, the Anaconda King also risked its life. It was because the existence in the cave was too important to it. Since Andamari dared to attack, he was already prepared. That ball of greenish-black light was the inner core that the Anaconda King had spat out with all its might. At the same time, the Anaconda King's big head also rushed out of the swamp. A strange scene appeared. Andamari actually didn't care about the inner core, and instead, he swung both his spears at the Anaconda King at the same time. No matter how cunning the Anaconda King was, it didn't expect Andamari to dare to fight it head-on. Its original plan was to scare Andamari away. Was the inner core of a level 10 magical beast so easy to withstand? Although the demon god pillar was indestructible, if it had landed on Andamari, it would have been fatal. However, everything happened too quickly. Even if the Anaconda King wanted to change its attack, it couldn't do so. Boom, roar, a violent explosion and a mournful roar appeared at almost the same time. The explosion came from the attack of the Anaconda King's inner core. The powerful inner core hit the center of Snake Demon God Andamari's chest. The huge explosive force actually tore his entire chest apart, and a terrifying hole with a diameter of more than 2 meters appeared there. The Anaconda King didn't have it easy either. Andamari's desperate pair of snake spears directly pierced its eyes. Its eyes and the Anaconda King's big head were instantly pierced through. Dark green blood mixed with black liquid splattered in all directions. The air was suddenly filled with a thick stench. Both sides were injured? No. In the end, it was still Andromalius who emerged victorious. Andamari, whose chest was pierced through, fell into the swamp. However, his huge body rapidly turned into countless black and red lights and flew towards the demon god pillar. Andamari's 5-meter-tall body appeared on the other side of the Anaconda King. The 2 spears that pierced through the Anaconda King's head also gradually shrunk. The demon god's incarnation. It was another powerful ability brought by the demon god pillar. This scene was also clearly seen by Long Houchen, who had snuck back to the edge of their battlefield. He couldn't help but gasp. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have imagined that Andamari actually had such a powerful skill. Long Houchen and the others had once killed the demon god's heir and obtained a crown of inheritance. The aura of the demon emperor's crown was much stronger than the crown of inheritance. Obviously, it wanted to escape and rendezvous with Andamari's demon god pillar. As long as the demon god pillar was still there, it wouldn't take many years for a new snake demon god to descend and lead the demon snake. Long Houchen didn't have time to stop it. The others, including the 2 holy guards, were all shocked by Long Houchen's shocking sword. By the time they reacted, the dark red crown had already swept past them. Yiting had entered a weakened state because she helped Long Houchen display the true power of the aria of the goddess of light. Even the saint's spiritual stove's guiding ability couldn't be used. Long Houchen was shocked, but found that he couldn't stop it. However, at this time, a bloody mouth suddenly appeared in the path of the dark red crown. The demon emperor's crown flew too fast, to the point that it didn't even have the chance to dodge. It was directly swallowed by that big mouth. A faint golden light lit up. Everyone was shocked to see that the one who swallowed the demon emperor's crown was Little Light, one of Haoyue's 5 big heads. Light flashed in Little Light's golden eyes. Indistinctly, a layer of purple rippled on his body again. Everyone only felt that the spiritual energy fluctuations on his body suddenly distorted for a moment before returning to normal, as if nothing had happened. Lin Xian's reaction was the fastest. Not only did he have brother medicine, he was also a miser. He ran over almost immediately and asked Haoyue, "My dear Haoyue, can you still spit it out?" Little Light unhappily glared at him and proudly shook his head. His meaning seemed to be saying, "You want me to spit out what I've eaten? You're simply daydreaming. Don't be like this, my dear Haoyue. That's the Demon Emperor's crown we're talking about. If we can bring it back to the Alliance, it'll be enough for all of us to change into legendary equipment. Even 1 or 2 epic-grade equipment won't be impossible. How can you swallow it alone?" Little Light acted as if he didn't see Lin Xian's pained expression and directly turned his head away. At this time, Holy Guard number 9 and number 11 also gathered outside. Wang Yuanyuan giggled and said, "All right, I have brother medicine. Don't be so greedy, all right? It's better to be eaten by Haoyue than to run away. I simply can't believe this is true. We actually killed a demon god. This is simply too unbelievable." That's right. She wasn't the only one who felt it was unbelievable. Even Long Houchen himself, who had launched the final attack, felt as if he was in a dream. They had really succeeded. They had successfully killed the snake demon god Andamari. Even though it was only the last of the 72 demon god pillar, it still brought them as many as 500,000 merit points. If they were able to hunt down any of the demon god pillars, they would be able to obtain at least 1,000,000 merit points as a reward. Golden light shone from Long Houchen's chest. Chen and Kai were finally summoned. However, the 2 of them didn't look too good. "What's wrong with you 2? Chen stared dumbfoundedly at Han Yu, who was supporting Long Houchen, while Kai was pouting, looking dissatisfied. The others had been summoned away by Long Houchen for a long time. Obviously, they had been thrown into battle, but they were only summoned now. Long Houchen forced a smile and said, "It's nothing. I'm just a little weak. I'll be fine after a short rest." A golden light shot out from Light's mouth and enveloped Long Houchen's body, using his own spiritual power to help Long Houchen recover. After Haoyue evolved to have 5 heads, his assistance to Long Houchen was no longer limited to spiritual power. He could even help him recover his vitality and overdraft potential. Therefore, after receiving Light's help, Long Houchen's complexion immediately became much better. Chen and Kai were dumbfounded by the large number of snake demon corpses in the distance. Chen said doubtfully, "Don't tell me that the battle is already over? Heavens, are those the demon god pillars? Where's the snake demon god Andamari? Did he run away?" Lin Xian laughed mischievously and said, "Run? Where to? Inside, there are only pieces of meat left. But this is also a good thing. I'll go clean it up later. Wang Yuanyuan said in a bad mood. Brother Yao, you have the potential to become a great chef. Hearing that snake demon god Andamari was killed, Kair was a bit better. After all, she had lost her memories. But Chen Ying-er's eyes widened in shock. You mean you killed snake demon god? Heavens, how is this possible? How is this possible? A layer of golden light blossomed from Han Yu's body and enveloped his companions. It was the power of the light-blessing spiritual stove. Within the light-blessing spiritual stove, everyone's consumed spiritual power was greatly restored. Even Sima Xian's pain from the backlash from the purple godly thunder spiritual stove weakened a lot. Long Haochen smiled slightly. Nothing is impossible. Didn't we succeed? Although luck played a large part, we still succeeded. All our tasks have been completed. Speaking of this, there was a clear feeling of pride in his heart. However, when his gaze fell on the somewhat depressed Kair, the joy in his heart faded a lot. Yes, no matter how great the harvest this time, compared to Kair's memory loss, it seemed to be insignificant. If he had a choice, he would rather go back to before he entered the demons. He would rather not have all of this than to see Kair become like this. You still don't trust me, Kair said angrily. However, she only said this sentence and couldn't continue because she saw the sadness in Long Haochen's eyes. There was even a bit of weak sadness and regret. She didn't know why, but when she saw Long Haochen like this, the depression in her heart naturally disappeared. There was even something stuck in her throat. The others also shut their mouths subconsciously, basking in this somewhat strange atmosphere as they bathed in the recovery of the light's blessing. Very quickly, other than Long Haochen, who was exhausted, and Sima Xian, who had suffered a backlash, everyone else had recovered to their best condition. Even the 4 holy guards were no exception. The power of the spiritual stove of light's blessing was evident. Everyone, clean up the battlefield, Long Haochen said in a deep voice. As he said that, he took the lead to walk towards the Anaconda King's corpse. On the battlefield, apart from the Anaconda King, there were 6 or 7 ordinary anacondas' corpses. After the snake demons were completely wiped out, there were very few anacondas who could really leave alive. Now, all of them had benefited Long Haochen and the others. Long Haochen carefully put the Anaconda King's corpse into his eternal melody. He could still clearly feel the eternal melody heating up. Obviously, it was absorbing the spiritual power produced in this battle. The corpse of an elite snake demon was worth a lot, not to mention the magical crystals. The carrying capacity of Long Haochen's eternal melody was almost limitless. In just a short while, everyone had put away everything that could be taken away. The battlefield had also become much cleaner. At this moment, the mixed magic power of Holy Guard number 9 and number 11 gradually disappeared, causing the swamp to soften again. Lin Xian also walked out of the cave. Looking at his satisfied expression, it was obvious that he had disposed of the snake demon god Andamari's corpse. Boss, shall we enter the cave to look for treasures? Lin Xian asked excitedly. However, he soon realized that Long Haochen's mind was not on the treasures in the cave, but on the demon god pillar not far away. At this moment, the huge demon god pillar had completely lost its original luster. It stood there for a long time like an ordinary stone pillar. The red light in the eyes of the giant serpent statue that was hovering above also completely dimmed. Boss, are you trying to destroy this demon god pillar? Lin Xian asked subconsciously. However, he was shocked to see that Long Haochen actually nodded. Seeing Long Haochen nod, the others couldn't help but be surprised. Ever since the Dark Age descended 6,000 years ago, countless demon gods of the demons had fallen. However, until today, none of the 72 demon god pillars had been damaged. For this, the Temple League had put in a lot of effort. However, even the power of a divine weapon couldn't destroy the demon god pillar. At this moment, Long Haochen actually said that he wanted to destroy the demon god pillar. Even though everyone trusted him, they still felt that he was overestimating himself. How could Long Houchen not know how tough the demon god pillar was? He had seen with his own eyes that the forest boa king's inner elixir couldn't even shake the demon god pillar at all. However, he also knew that the 72 demon god pillars were the foundation of the demons. As long as the 72 demon god pillars weren't destroyed, it was impossible for the Temple League to defeat the demons. At this moment, the snake demon god Andamari was killed by them. This was the first time the demon god pillar was exposed in front of them. Moreover, it was the weakest and last-ranked demon god pillar. How could Long Houchen not be tempted? I want to give it a try. Long Houchen's tone wasn't firm, but there was a strange fluctuation of emotion in it. Influenced by his emotions, everyone's gaze gradually became solemn. Sima Xian held his vigor ball of light. Boss, let me try first. Roar. At this moment a low roar suddenly sounded, interrupting Sima Xian's intention to step forward. The owner of this low roar was Haoyue. Long Houchen looked at his old partner in surprise. At this moment, Haoyue's emotions were clearly not right. Looking at the huge demon god pillar, Haoyue's emotions seemed to be in a mess. For the first time, Long Houchen felt that Haoyue's emotions were not under his control. An indescribable mania and pain spread in Haoyue's heart, even affecting Long Houchen's emotions. The 5 large heads raised up high at the same time, roaring furiously towards the sky. Little light, little fire, little green, little blue, and little violet, their emotions were exactly the same. That was an indescribable rage, a rage filled with despair. Immediately, layers of dense purple light spread out from Haoyue's body. Long Houchen was shocked to find that after these purple lights appeared, they actually burned around Haoyue's body like flames. Haoyue, don't! Long Houchen turned pale with fright, and was about to rush over to stop it, because he felt that Haoyue was actually burning his most fundamental thing. Roar! Haoyue's 5 big heads turned at the same time, and even roared fiercely at Long Houchen. Immediately, the huge wings on its back spread out, and carried its huge body straight towards the demon god pillar. The purple flames rose even more violently. At this moment, Haoyue was like a willful child, that incomparable stubbornness that even Long Houchen could not stop. When it was about 20 meters away from the demon god pillar, its huge body stopped in the air. Long Houchen suddenly had an illusion. In the purple flames rising from Haoyue, the demon god pillar seemed to be trembling. How is this possible? Why is the demon god pillar trembling? Just as Long Houchen was filled with doubts, Haoyue moved. The most significant part was that Long Houchen and his companions proved that the 72 demon god pillars of the demons were not indestructible. They could also be destroyed. This was too important to the Temple League, too important. The weak Haoyue directly returned to his original space. At this moment, Long Houchen vaguely understood why even the Demon Emperor had tried to find the existence of Haoyue. Because its power had already threatened the foundation of the demons, and it had the ability to destroy the demon god pillars. Clenching his fists, he slowly clenched them. Long Houchen turned around and looked at his companions behind him. We won. Yes, we won. Long Houchen stretched out his right hand. Sima Xian, Han Yu, Lin Xian, Wang Yuanyuan, and Chen Inger successively placed their hands on Long Houchen's. Kair hesitated for a moment, but finally placed her soft little hand on the back of Chen Inger's hand. Long Houchen's other hand was also placed. He suddenly roared to the sky, "We won!" The pain that had been suppressed in his heart these days seemed to have been completely vented, and he subconsciously held Kai Er's hand tightly. The blossoming of his inner emotions made his suppressed feelings clear again. His originally slightly frowning brows finally relaxed. In front of his companions, Long Houchen had always been very calm, and this was the first time he had been so impassioned. At this moment, The people standing beside him suddenly realized that this young knight who had been leading them forward was actually not even 20 years old. Long Houchen's excitement didn't last long. After a brief moment of excitement, he quickly regained his usual calmness and said in a deep voice, "Everyone, go into the cave and rest for a while. After that, we will investigate the situation inside the cave. After finishing this, we must leave this place as soon as possible. One of the 72 demon god pillars has been destroyed. I don't know if the other demon gods of the demons will sense it. It is not good to stay here for long." Everyone nodded, returned to the cave, and collectively rested. The one who needed to rest the most was naturally Long Houchen himself. He sat down cross-legged and entered a state of meditation. The others sat around and rested. Although the time of the battle just now was short, everyone's spirit was highly tense. At this time, when they relaxed, in addition to the feeling of carefulness, there was also a deep sense of fatigue. Perhaps this exhaustion had been accumulating since the day they entered the Devil Race. For holy guards guarded the entrance of the cave, silently watching the outside. At this time, perhaps because of the arrival of the Goddess of Light and the destruction of the demon god pillars, the air in the dark swamp seemed to have become a little fresher. At least as far as the eye could see, the misty poisonous fog had dispersed a lot. If one day you are able to see the slumbering calamity Electrolux, please send my regards to him. If you don't get rid of the obsession in his heart, you won't be able to truly transcend. Even if it's been so long, so long. Sun Moon Divine Snail's voice grew weaker and weaker, until it completely disappeared, and its body also became transparent. Soft golden crystal-like specks of light drifted in the air, then slowly fell on its huge shell. The gentle golden light continuously rippled with moving ripples of light. 2 streams of tears flowed down Long Houchen's face, and he suddenly felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. With his right hand in front of his chest, he hammered the left side of his chest, performing a solemn knight's salute to the departing Sun Moon Divine Snail. It wasn't only him, but the others also performed the most solemn salute of their profession, watching the departure of this divine beast that had lived for thousands of years. The golden light vanished, and that enormous shell suddenly started to rotate. Furthermore, with each rotation, its radiance dimmed a bit, and its volume also shrank a bit. At a speed visible to the naked eye, in a short time, it shrunk into an orange-yellow ball of light. The radiance floated up, heading straight for Long Houchen. Unconsciously, Long Houchen raised his left arm. That orange-yellow ball of light seemed to have grown eyes, directly landing on his left forearm. The glorious holy armor didn't have the slightest effect. Long Houchen only felt a warmth on his left forearm, and immediately afterwards, that warmth rapidly spread to every part of his body, even to the extent of his soul. Immersed in this warmth, Long Houchen only felt that his heart seemed to have become more transparent, and all the repressed emotions in his heart, including the regret he felt just now after learning about Electrolux's origin, unexpectedly disappeared. This kind of transparent feeling was just like that of a newborn baby. His spiritual energy didn't increase, but when Long Houchen woke up from this feeling, he completely understood how important the Sun-Moon Divine Snail was to him. Not only did it use its memories and reminders to influence him, it also used the last of its life force to cleanse his soul. Although the others didn't feel it personally, in their eyes, Long Houchen's change was also very clear. The orange-yellow radiance fused with his body, and Long Houchen's whole body seemed to have become transparent. Whether it was his eyes, his aura, or his spiritual energy, they all seemed to have a pure and holy feeling. In particular, Long Houchen's eyes seemed to have returned to the time when they first met. Looking at his left hand, Long Houchen remained silent for a moment. Suddenly, he took 2 steps forward, slowly kneeling on the ground, and kowtowed in the direction where the Sun-Moon Divine Snail disappeared. Only by flying north and leaving the Andro province would they be able to get as far away from the main forces of the demons as possible. This was because the central province of the demons was in the south. If the demon emperor or the other demons sensed Andamari's death or the destruction of the demon god pillar, they would definitely dispatch powerhouses from the south to investigate. If they retreated to the south or the west, there was a possibility of encountering powerful enemies. Only by going north would they be able to get as far away from the enemy as possible. Before entering the swamps of gloom, Long Houchen had already planned out their route of retreat. They would first head north, before retreating to the west from the northern cold lands. This time, they chose to retreat to the Exorcist Mountain Pass. Wasn't the Exorcist Mountain Pass in the north of the Temple League? So it wasn't too much of a detour. And this would be a lot safer. Of course, they couldn't stay in the air for a long time. One reason was because of the huge consumption of spiritual energy, and the other reason was because of the demons' detection of the air. However, they were currently in the innermost part of the demons' territory, almost on the eastern coast of the demons' territory. The surveillance here was a lot more relaxed, especially in the swamps of gloom. Flying at full speed, after half an hour, Long Houchen's companions of the sixth step started to be unable to hold on. Fortunately, they were already out of the range of the swamps of gloom at that time. When they landed on the ground, it was already late at night, but Long Houchen didn't let his companions rest too much, only letting them recover their spiritual energy. After taking some of the pills made by Lin Xin to recover their spiritual energy, they immediately resumed their journey, continuing north at full speed. After landing on the ground, Long Houchen recalled the 4 great holy guards, and everyone once again changed into their moon devil's attire, continuing their journey day and night. The defense of the demons' territory in the east was indeed lax. Han Yu released his evil eye, and kept using appraisal and eyes of truth to investigate. Everyone did their best to avoid the demons' territory, and their journey could be considered smooth. After traveling north for 5 days, as the temperature kept getting colder and colder, the Commander Tier Monster Hunt 64 approached the demons' territory. At that time, Long Houchen changed his direction, heading west. In the following half a month of hurrying, everything went exceptionally smoothly. Even after passing through 2 provinces where the demons were supposed to be densely populated, they unexpectedly didn't run into any trouble. They didn't even discover a large-scale army of demons. As night fell, everyone sat around a bonfire, warming up their rations. Long Houchen sat there, wrinkling his brows, as if pondering over something. Sima Xian chuckled. "Boss, what's the matter? Our return went so smoothly. Is there something else that's troubling you?" According to the map, we should reach the intersection between the demons and our Temple League around noon tomorrow. As long as we pass through the demons' border, we will be able to return to the Exorcist Mountain Pass, our own territory. Long Houchen shook his head. Don't you think it's a bit strange? On our way back, although we have been taking small and remote paths, it seems to have gone too smoothly. The demons' population is astonishing, but we haven't even encountered a decent army of demons. This is too abnormal. In fact, it can be said that we have traversed through the demons' northern provinces. Furthermore, the closer we are to the border, the more supplies we will encounter. Although the demons have stationed a large amount of troops at the border, the supplies seem to be a bit too concentrated. Han Yu's line of thought was the closest to Long Houchen's, and immediately reacted, "Captain, are you saying that the demons might be carrying out a large-scale operation against the Temple League?" Long Houchen nodded. "It's very possible. Although I don't know the total amount of supplies the demons have mobilized, from the frequency of their movements, we can see that this time the demons have mobilized a considerable amount of troops. It might even surpass that time when we went through the monster hunter's trial in the Exorcist Mountain Pass." Sima Xian chuckled coldly. "Isn't that just perfect for us to kill to our heart's content? It just so happens that we can get rid of some demon bastards on the battlefield at the right time. Speaking of which, war missions are the most satisfying. With sufficient logistical support, and the assistance of our allies on the battlefield, we can display our full strength without any misgivings." The commander-grade Monster Hunt 64 could be said to be completely different from before. Compared to when they first arrived at the Exorcist Mountain Pass, they were now a lot more powerful. Hearing Sima Xian's words, everyone was eager to give it a try. Continuously experiencing life and death, the trials of iron and blood, they were continuously maturing, and their strength was increasing substantially. The battlefield was not only the best place to test their strength, but also the most rewarding place. Long Houchen declared, "Han Yu, from now on, let the evil eye keep using eagle eyes and true sight. Everyone is on high alert at all times. Not only will we rest here tonight, we will also rest for the day tomorrow. These days of hurrying on the road, everyone is a bit tired. Since the Exorcist Mountain Pass is likely to be attacked by the demons, we have to recover to our peak condition first. Passing through the border of the demons won't be so easy." Indeed, ever since leaving the swamps of gloom, they hadn't had the slightest delay in their journey.